I feel free. I feel free. I feel free.
So freaky. Is your phone picking it up?
Fuck yeah, it is.
Is it one yours? I can't see. That is weird AF. Huh. Where'd it go? It's there. It's on the other side of the phone. So freaky. Is your phone picking it up?
Fuck yeah, it is.
Is it one yours? I can't see. That is weird AF. Huh. Where'd it go? It's there. It's on the other side of the phone.
Zero people. Well, you know what? We're going to go ahead anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to my quiet, lovely, beautiful, peaceful, affordable, comfortable, golfing, and sunny retirement community, affectionately known as... Come on, Frank.
Del Boca Vista.
Thank you, Frank. That's correct. Welcome to the Docs Report. I'm a retired senior citizen living in Central Florida. This is my personal YouTube channel, vlog, citizen journalism account, and just about anything else I want it to be. Thank you for joining me. One person. But that's okay. That is okay. Weather, oh man, you know, it was 55 degrees this morning. I do a fitness lifestyle. I've chosen to live a fitness lifestyle. It all begins in the mind. Make up your mind, make a decision, and the body will follow. So I went over to the fitness center this morning. I had to put on a jacket. 55 degrees with a little bit of wind. Man, so let's see. We got 80 degrees Fahrenheit right now. 27 degrees Celsius, humidity 47%. That's sweet, under 50%. Winds 18 kilometers per hour, that would be 11 miles per hour. So what a beautiful day. You know what, I'm not even gonna look at that. I got nobody watching. So let's go into the garage, shall we? I gotta give you something to look at. That is the Docs Report garage. There's the WRX 2020 limited, 6-speed, limited edition. I got the crossbars on top. At some point, I'm going to get a bike rack, but I had a left lingual repair, hernia repair with mesh. So I'm not going to get on the bicycle. And I have another surgery coming up, and I don't want to take a spill on the bicycle, so I'm going to stay off the bike. So I had a great, I came very close to not going to the fitness center this morning, very close, because once I hang around the house, I was watching that NFL game last night on what is it, Prime Video or Prime Amazon. It was terrible. Holy shit. They do the production, they do the ads, they do the analysis, they do it all. Okay, you have the kickoff. The first team goes 3 and out, and then they punt, and then they go to commercial. And so you're sitting there. You come back, the first play, is it a catch or not a catch? Did the ball hit the ground or not the ground? So now they got to review it. This is not working. So I just watched the highlights in the morning. And apparently it did touch the ground because they didn't show it as an interception. But who was it? The Vikings versus the Chargers. And I don't know. I mean, are you going to stay up all night watching that? If you tune it in, if you go onto YouTube and do a search for NFL highlights, you can watch the whole game and the scoring. It wasn't much of a game because it wasn't competitive. And Carl Wentz, is that his name? Well, it's Wentz. I know that. I don't know what his first name is. He had a couple good throws, but he's getting banged up, and it was like it's just they were outmatched. It was not much of a game. So I thought, nah, I'm going to do something else. So I thought I'd stream tonight. There is some news. I wouldn't know if I call it breaking news, but it is some news. But I got one person who just popped in and left. I don't want to. Maybe I'll wait till I get a few more people. So I'll just carry the conversation. So I lined up all my. I got my. I don't know how much I've told you of this, but I have a cataract in my left eye. Well, actually in both eyes. But the one in the left eye is a 2, which is more severe than a 1, and the 1 is in the right eye. So I go in there to get measured, but I get them both measured. And she's talking to me about the right eye of what lenses to pick, but I'm not ready for that. I want to do the right eye. And I think I told you this. In case AD never calling, I cannot get the trifocal lens. He crossed it out. She told me he crossed it out. It's not an option for me, but I can get the premium distant because of the astigmatism, which apparently is just the curvature of the eyeball. They can't really do anything with it. The right eye, she said they could do correct. They could do astigmatism correction. Now, I don't know if that's the lens, or she mentioned something about getting little cuts on the eyeball, so it'll reshape it. And they know exactly where to cut it. So, but then they're going to drop me down to like the basic lens and not the distance premium. So I'll go over that with her. But anyway, paid the bills, wrote the checks. I'm tracking it. And I was shocked. I go online to my healthcare carrier. I have a PPO, AARP, United Healthcare. And they had run the claim for my initial appointment and processed it like as quick as a pharmacy. It was done. And zero copay. I went in there to get, and I guess that's my prior auth because, and what I like about this place is they have a woman dedicated just to do the billing. You go into her office, she knows all the plans, she has to deal with them, but they have a dedicated person to do the billing, which I think it makes it easier. So if she knows the plans, then if I don't have to do a prior auth, then that's fine. And then I had to go in with the worst part of the whole episode was I had to write a check, 2 checks. Who writes checks anymore? I mean, I screwed the first one up and I tore it up and I handed it to her. And I think my pen was running out of ink. It was just a terrible experience. I have a debit card, but you have to do 2 separate checks because one goes to that clinic and the other check goes to the surgical center. So, okay, which I did it, but it's like I got a debit card. I'm looking to see if I can get that what do they call it? The maximum increased because they only allow $2,500. That's the max you can go. Well, I had to write a check bigger than that, I think. Well, for a daily thing. Well, I'm going to call my bank. I want to be able to go in there. I don't want to write a check. I want to just give you my debit card and then just do 2 debits. So that's on my list of things to do. And other than that, I'm looking forward to it, of getting home, actually. So I got my schedule all put out for next week because the surgery is midweek, all right? Not next week, but in a couple weeks. The surgery is on a Wednesday. Well, I work out Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday workout. So I'm going to go in Monday, Tuesday, but I'm not going to do the weights. I got to do something because I'm going to be nervous. I want to burn off some energy. So I'm going to do everything but the weights and then go through my routine, go up to Wawa, then, get some coffee and all that. And then when I get the surgery on Wednesday, I have to drive back down there on Thursday. They have he won't be there, but one of the physicians is going to look at it just to make sure. And I'm supposed to start the drops the day before surgery, and I guess the morning of. So, okay, it's go time. And they don't want you, no jewelry, no phone. And they have a courtesy shuttle that's going to pick me up. So if that person doesn't get me there, I mean, they know I'm going to be picked up, so he should be calling, or I'll have to call them back because I got to hear from him the day before the surgery, and then the medical team will call me. The surgical center will call me the day before too. So I don't. I'm gonna have my wallet and a house key, and the little bag they gave me here. What's in the bag, you ask? I mean, someday you'll have cataracts. Everybody gets them, I guess. I got the drops. I got this big sunglasses. I got the plastic shield that goes over the eye, and I got the tape. And what is this? Eye care. Oh, I can wand it to go look at it. So that's all you're supposed to bring. And you can't eat the morning of. You can have a little bit of water, but don't eat. Eat the night before. Nothing after midnight. Okay. But it always feels like I'm going to the gallows. You're gonna have surgery. Who wants surgery? I certainly don't want it. Sometimes it's better just to have an emergency, and they just, like an appendicitis. I remember that one, to go in there. And I thought he was a good surgeon, but he's not like the guy that did the hernia. The hernia, you can't even tell I got a scar there. But the appendix, he wasn't that good. But what are you going to do in an emergency? No comments. 3 people watching. Well, that's better than 0. Oh man, did the market do good today or what? Where's my? Look at this. Is this unbelievable? At one time it was up over 1%, the S&P 500. So this is a great time. You're right now. This is the reason you save. This is the reason you have a 401k. And I thought with all the bad news, like Xi Jinping is still in power. Well, I don't know if he's in total power, but he's been clipped a little bit. And I don't know how that's going to end up. And then Trump announced he ended all trade talks with Canada. And I thought, well, I think that's going to shake up the market. It didn't shake it up at all. So Canada, I was watching some Canadian podcasts, and it's like, what do? I mean, you talk about a clown show. I mean, the Liberal Party, they don't have any answers. And Doug Ford, he should resign. I mean, he just doesn't, they have no ideas. It's their policy. They don't know how to run their provinces, except green, energy bad, progress bad. But they got to come up with some ideas instead of just going after Trump. That's not working. 4 people watching. Well, thank you. So I have the hood propped up because I hook up the battery tender. Because I don't drive that much. I don't drive that aggressive. So, I pop it open as soon as I get home, and I kind of get close to the side there to the outlet. And I do that on the weekend. And it took an hour. It was amber for an hour. So it needed to be charged, and I just leave that way, the whole weekend. If I got to go up to Wawa, then I'll just unplug it and go up there. And I got every light on imaginable in the garage. I got them all on. It's all about getting the shot. Five people. Well, that's better. Let's, before we get into I do have a couple clips, UAP stuff. And of course, the big news is that this thing, whatever this thing is, changed its course. Okay? Now, did it do a maneuver or... And if it's 46 kilometers in diameter, would outgassing even move it a little bit? Or does it have some kind of propulsion? I mean, I don't think it's out of the ordinary because, that it could be something high tech from a different, distant galaxy. Or, excuse me, a distant solar system. I don't know if it would be intergalactic. Maybe it could be. But Milky Way is a pretty big place. So I don't know. I don't know if it's outside the galaxy. And let's see, I do have spirit in the title too, so I'm willing to talk. I don't really want to, I'm not big on religion, so I don't really want to talk religion, but I don't mind talking spirit. So I thought, I saw this on, and I had to find, I ran across this again, and as a, what should I say? If you got to have a title, I do read the King James Version, the Gospel. Now, does that make me a Christian? I think so, but I never, ever thought of Jesus as the king. So I don't know who's behind this. Is this Charlie Kirk saying, this is my king? If Jesus was alive today, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to change anybody's beliefs, but he would say, in a loving way, you're wrong. Okay, I agree. This is my president, correct. This is my flag. This is my country. Yes, okay, I agree with all that. But as a Christian, this is my king. No, he wouldn't have wanted that, okay? Now, if you're evangelical and you see it differently, and if you want to come on the program, shoot me an email or the link's in the description. But just don't throw biblical quotes at me, okay? I mean, you got to be able to discuss it too. You know, close the book. I don't need anybody parroting scripture to me. And now I do read my emails. I do get some emails, and I was sent an email, and I'm not going to tell you their name unless they want me to. But the person said, "Well, more information's better. More information's always better. You know, more data." I'm thinking, well, it depends. Not really. How much information do you need to know about Scientology to make a decision? I don't think you need much, all right? I'm not going to pick it on any other religions either, but I'm going to use an example of Scientology. How much information do you need to know to make a decision? You don't need to know everything about Scientology. I mean, for me, that's an easy decision. And the decision is, I'm not interested. Now, I had this at the opening. This is kind of interesting.
So freaky.
Good old Florida.
So freaky. Is your phone picking it up?
Fuck yeah, it is.
Is it one yours? I can't see. That is weird AF. Huh. Where'd it go? It's there. It's on the other side. Fuck.
Oh, thank you, sir or madam. We got a comment. Jay Gracewater, instinct from the gut, the third brain for us humanoids. Instinct from the gut, the third brain. Well, we have intuition, whatever that is. There's a part of us that knows everything. But I don't need to know everything, not to live my daily life. Oh, I also I try to watch, and you can't get any decent information on Three Eye Atlas on YouTube because everything's thrown at you. Everybody wants to get clicks. And they want to scare, and I stop the music here because I'm not here to frighten anybody. I just want to, you got to deal with reality. You don't have to be scared, but you have to deal, if it is a visitor, if it is a technical probe from a different part of the galaxy, then you should know about it. There's no need to fear it now. They've apparently been around for a while. We have astronauts that have seen them, and I'm going to play Gordon Cooper here. He's not in a trailer down in Alabama against, with a swamp or or Louisiana. He's an astronaut, and he was flying the jets when one landed, and that's his testimony. And they filmed it, and of course they turned the film over to the feds, and they've never seen it since. So they know They absolutely know. I mean, what do we got here? J. Gray. The first brain lies outside of you, your soul in the cloud. Second brain. Now, this is J. Gray, and I don't endorse this. This is not my view. The first brain lies outside of you, your soul in the cloud. Second brain is your brain, and your gut is your third brain, according to J. Gray. I look at it differently. Every major religion, I think, if you look deep enough, God is within you. That's the money quote. It's in the King James Version of the Bible, and it's not poetic, and it's not symbolic, it's literal. So what does God not know? Infinite intelligence, whatever you call it. And that's the reason I don't like this photo I put up there. Where is it? But if your religion worships Jesus, this is my king, okay. I've never been taught that. Now, I came out of Mormonism, so we're never taught to pray to Jesus. Maybe some churches do, some religions do. I don't know. And I'm not putting it down, but it's just something I would never think of doing because Jesus, if you read that, he denied it. He's not God. He was one with God. Different. But I read the gospel in the King James Version. But again, if you have a different point of view and you like to present it and you're a pastor, but just don't be a scripture parrot, okay? Just be able to discuss it. I had to give you something to look at because outside it is so freaking bright and the sun is now setting out west. It's too hard to go out there. And earlier in the day in the birdcage it was 92 degrees. And I don't want to put my iPhone out there. But I do want to get a stream up. Jay Gray going after the Mormons. They have over $100 billion in assets. Well, I heard it's the largest corporation west of the Mississippi. Now, I'll put in kind of a derogatory comment. I don't want to say it on air, but this is how I refer once in a while to some people, and I get a laugh, okay? But I don't want to show it. They know how to manage their money. And I don't talk bad about them. I had alcoholism at home, and I went up there to church. It was great. Guys were sober, and I had buddies, and we played basketball, and there's girls up there, and people are great. It's a lay ministry, by the way. They don't get paid. The ministry that I interacted with were volunteers. And it's really, let's see, how did they do it? I was in a ward, and you had a second counselor, first counselor, a bishop. But these are just your neighbors, And I'm not getting any of this teaching at home, so there's no teaching at home. So I'm glad I had it. I had something. Pavel, 10% pre-tax rate on each human. No, 10% pre-tax rate on each human. Missionaries in marketing. Okay. They do present a very, they have businessmen that are very astute and they know how to present a message and, white shirt and tie. And listen, I did okay. I turned out okay after I found God. Then I turned out okay. So, but I look back on it, and that's all I could handle back then. But when I was a child, and I got to look up that scripture again. Here we have 1 Corinthians 13:11, King James Version. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Beautiful. And as you know, I have left the Archieverse, so I just want to play this disclaimer. Now, 3I Atlas is going to exit the solar system. And I'm telling you right now, Doc's report has exited the Archieverse. I'm out. I'm gone. If you want to bring it up, I'll discuss it, but I have no news. I have no playboard. I have none of it. I'm done. I'm done with these beg streams. I can't take it anymore. It's over. It's over. I wonder how he did on his birthday. Did he rake in the money? Did you know? Now that is definitely a cult. There's other things to watch. How you feeling, Lex?
I feel free. I feel free.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I don't have to do play. I had to fire the girls. I had to fire the go-go dancers. Yeah, they were crying, but you know what? They'll find some work elsewhere. In the band, they'll go on to greater success. And I deleted all my files. All my files. They're all gone. Anything to do with it. Correct. And you want to be, you're absolutely correct. This will be, I got sucked back into it. And time will tell. If you have a right to be skeptical. This will be your second quitting that I remember, declares Pavel. You're correct. You're right. Absolutely right. I think I'm going to stay with it. I got other things to do. I mean, as soon as I got to get this surgery stuff out of the way. This has been well, it depends how you look at it. I had, let's see, I had COVID in February, but thank God for the medication. That was great. That Paxil or Paxit or whatever it is. And then then that was before the hernia surgery, and now I got cataract surgery. But at least it's getting taken care of because I can't go on like this with the left eye. It's just too out of whack. Double vision. I can't. It's dangerous, really. I got prescription sunglasses, but I'm not going to go out. I thought I could write it out until the next year, but nah, because I was reading the paperwork, and it says the worse it gets, it's harder to break it up. So let's take care of it. Let's get it done. It'll be really interesting because I guess once it's the surgery, and then you drive back the next day, and then they look you over, and then I'll just follow what they're telling me to do. Like, you know, they don't want you to lift heavy weights because your stomach, it puts pressure, I guess, on the stomach. Well, I'm doing leg raises and sit-ups and crunches, and I wouldn't call it heavy weights, but I do lift weights, so that'll be out. But if they say a week or 2 weeks, then I'll get back into it, you know. Or like I'll do what I'm pre-surgery. The 2 days. Surgery's on a Wednesday. Monday, Tuesday, I'm going to hit the fitness center, but I'm going to do everything but the weights. Of course, now after the surgery, then I'll just do the aerobic stuff. You know, that's an hour right there. The bicycle, let's see, the treadmill, the bicycle, and the elliptical. There's no heavy weights there. Really? Pavel, my dad, how old are you, Pavel? You're making me feel old. My dad raves about his cataracts surgery. The procedure was a breeze, and he enjoys dramatic improvement. Right. I had glasses in the first grade, and then I had the LASIKs. And it was a good doctor that did that because they didn't comment on it. I mean, now, back then, there was also radical keratotomy, and the nurse was telling me about that. Those patients have a problem because that's very tricky to get lenses into them. Healer, heal thyself. What does that mean? Well, let me look up the scripture, if it is a scripture, which I don't think it is, but healer, heal thyself, King James Version. Let's see, it's Luke 4:23. It's not heal thyself. That's not the exact wording. But the proverb appears in Luke 4:23. Well, let's go to Luke 4:23. Let me go to my online Bible. I appreciate this. Interaction with the audience. Let's see. Browse the Bible. Select individual books. We want Luke 4. Okay, so we go to New Testament, Luke 4. Now, I'm not the Bible answer man, okay? Luke 4:23. I guess this is Jesus commenting on this. Let's see. And he said unto them, Ye will surely say unto me this proverb, Physician, heal thyself. Whatsoever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in thy country. All right. And he said, Verily I say unto you, no prophet is accepted in his own country. Aha. But I tell you of a truth, many widows were in Israel in the days of Elijah. The heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months when great famine. Okay, I don't know what it means. Specifically, I don't know what it means. I'm not the Bible answer man. That's not what I do. You can find truth in a lot of places. Wherever you find it, grab onto it, hold on to it. All right, 31 minutes in. And what else do we have here? I don't want to play this Trump stuff. I may get, I'll lose everybody. Let's go back to the UAPs, shall we? Okay, the UK. Now, I'm sure you've heard of this in the UK. You're gonna know this guy.
2002. It's the middle of the night and a blacked-out van is speeding through the streets of London. Inside are several British police officers and at least one Secret Service agent. Their target? A seemingly unimportant flat in the Wood Green district. Once they arrive, the officers jump out of the van and rush towards the apartment. They quickly break down the door and immobilize a young man and his girlfriend. However, these two aren't their main objective. Instead, it was their computers. The officers quickly confiscate both of their PCs and every data storage device in the apartment. The man, Gary McKinnon, is thrown into the back of the van, and he can only watch as the agents illegally take away his possessions. The same night, all the confiscated items are immediately taken onto a private plane and sent to the United States, specifically to the Department of Defense headquarters known as the Pentagon.
A British hacker accused of breaking into Pentagon and NASA systems.
What a U.S. prosecutor calls the biggest military computer hack in all time.
I was in search of suppressed technology, referred to as UFO technology. I think it's the biggest kept secret in the world.
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes, there's UFO technology.
The US said they wanted him extradited.
I appeal to Obama and to Gordon Brown. Do they want the first computer hacker ever to be extradited to be a guy looking for UFOs?
The Americans say McKinnon is a cyber terrorist who caused almost £500,000 worth of damage to military computers.
I think he did him a favor, knowing that they're hackable. You know, you got to improve your security. Physician, heal thyself means to me you have the capability to heal yourself. You are the physician. Gary was using a dial-up modem. Yeah, that was a while back. That was a while back. Off-planet officers. Well, thank you. We got a new person here, I think. Slurms Mackenzie. Hello, Docs. Hey, Slurmy. Well, there's a dog that wags its tail in the Bible, too. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You know, you got to look at the big picture. Look at the big picture. Let's see. Okay, now. So the governments really want to know. I mean, they don't want to talk about it, and they know that there's evidence there. I think this could be the turning point with this 3I Atlas if we ever get those photos. Now, we may never get them, the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, because let's say if they're very specific and they show a metal object, let's say 46 kilometers in diameter, they're not going to show that to us. Define off-planet officers. Jay Gray, what he revealed was huge and swept under the carpet. Yes, he found a list of off-planet officers. You mean aliens among us? Is that I'll tell you what, I tried to find it, I couldn't find it, but the NASA spokesperson, this woman, she looks like she's an alien. She is the strangest, some of the facial motions that she was doing, I wish I could find that again. Well, that's what George Knapp claimed. He's had a conversation with Robert Bigelow of Bigelow Aerospace, and he says they're among us, and that kind of startled George Knapp, and he goes, what do you mean? He says, they're among us. They're walking among us. Okay, I don't know about that. I know the crafts are here. There's evidence. There's crash retrieval, and I'm sure we got neighbors, right? So speaking of George Knapp, let's hear what he has to say.
Turn of Dronapalooza.
Yeah.
You recall from last year, drones everywhere over key installations. They shut down Langley Air Force Base. They shut down Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. They were seen for several weeks by hundreds of thousands of people over New Jersey, over a nuclear plant, over sensitive military installations. They were out here in the Southwest over Plant 42. And the same thing happened in almost all these cases. They'd come in out of nowhere, undetected. They'd loiter around, making themselves obvious. The lights are on. Nobody knew where they're from. They would leave and could not be tracked. None of them were shot down. We don't know who was behind them or what was going on. And now the same thing has been happening almost a year later across Europe. You know, you'll recall there were a couple of UK military bases, joint bases, that were overflown by these drones. I think we were told by our friend Chris Sharp that there were attempts to bring them down with the best anti-drone technology. Poof, did nothing. Now they've been making a nuisance of themselves over several European countries, and you have to wonder who's behind it, what's going on, where these things are from.
Right, and remember Copenhagen and the Norway airport, they were closed down because of drones. Now, Jay Gray, why would they do that? Gold is being shipped to the moon as we speak. Why would they do that? And we're shipping gold to the moon to do what? Pay off the aliens? What is this, Curly? You want me to promote Curly's channel? Come on, this is Curly. It can't be that bad. Are you telling me your channel is doing that poorly? You have to come over here to promote your channel? That's terrible. But I'll tell you what, it's the franchise club. Here, I'll put it in for you. There you go. And if that doesn't work, you can put in the sit-down lounge. Let's see. Google searches occurred before the drone showed up. Foreknowledge. Even the Nobel Prizes are fixed. Oh, man. Okay. Fixed by who? You know, I was almost going to get into the cognac tonight. I got to make a decision. Now, tomorrow is definitely whiskey a go-go. They probably don't even need it. Why would they even need it? I think they've got it all figured out. They have the what good would it do them? Schlurmy, thank you, Docs. If the U.S. government discovered aliens, we would send gold and money to. What good would they? They don't want that. They probably snatching, DNA material or something. The sit-down lounge could be premium content. From Curly? How could that be premium content? He talks over everyone. Now, I'm not back in the Archieverse or the Beg streams. I'm just commenting. You bring it up, so I'll talk about it. He talks over everyone. He can't even get through a clip without, long-winded whatever he's got to say. Pavel, Uncle's Ball Washing Emporium. Curly, big boss man Curly. Well, listen, he gets the views. I got to hand it to him. He, the last time I looked, he was neck and neck with the Beast of Brisbane. So he takes a big cut out of the Super Chads. Jake Wastewater, like I said, it could. But it's just not for me. I can't. It's not for me. Oh, Jake Sweater, he says he loves you, Curls. Curly is a wrecking ball. That's what he enjoys doing. And he's very cunning. I don't know how smart he is, but he's very cunning. And he figured out Archie quickly. Oh, you want the money? Okay, I'll give you the money. You want the attention? I'll give you that. And then, he did pay his way. He learned what he needed, and he left. And, they all, you can't really blame him for that. Look at the money Timmy and JJ and Marco Ferrante made for the 9-year-old. But see, the 9-year-old wanted it permanent. He wanted slaves over there. He wanted total commitment. He wanted cult followers like Mike the pet cat, the companion pet of the leader. Just be here, sit down, shut up, or do my bidding. It'll be interesting. It'll be like a real time machine thing for me. It'll be neat to come back in a year, maybe check it out. I should write the date. What I'm going to do is leave up all my YouTube content until I get the 3,000 hours, and then I'll start chopping off at the back. But I made the mistake of deleting a lot of stuff when I had the instant with the one of the YouTube personalities in the EU. So I deleted everything he was on, because that was part of the deal. Pavel, consummate groomer of random dodes on the internet. Well, it attracts, brings them in. Look at Archie. He sets the web. These young guys come on. They think Archie's interested in him. He's not. They're all narcissistic supply to him. And he's first got to figure out how much money you got and if you're willing to part with it. See, the problem, if I have some brandy tonight, see, I don't want to be channel surfing. I don't want to go look. You know what I'm saying? So I've got to be very careful on that. All right, back to the media. Look at old 60 Minutes. We got 60 Minutes here, which I never watch.
Next Sunday on 60 Minutes, Bill Whitaker's investigation into mysterious drone invasions over restricted U.S. military sites.
Do you believe that these drones are a spying system, a spying platform?
What would a logical person conclude?
That these are spying incursions.
And yet, I can tell you, I am privy to classified briefings at the highest level. I think the Pentagon and the National Security Advisors are still mystified.
There you go. And see, they kind of skirt the issue. They call them drones instead of UAPs. but they're UAPs. All right. Now let's get to this individual. American hero, Gordon Cooper. Now, if you know your American history, where is Mr. Cooper? I got, what do I do with him? Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Here we go. Who was Gordon Cooper? Now, this is not a guy living in a trailer park. Gordon Cooper was an American astronaut, test pilot, and aeronautical engineer, born March 6, 1927 in Shawnee, Oklahoma. He was one of the original 7 astronauts selected for NASA's Project Mercury, known as the Mercury 7. Cooper flew the final Mercury mission, Mercury Atlas 9, Faith 7, on May 15th to the 16th, 1963. That was a while back. Yes, I was around in 1963, 9 years old, becoming the first American to spend over a day in space and the last to fly a solo orbital mission. He orbited Earth 22 times in 34 hours, conducting experiments and proving human endurance in space. He later piloted Gemini 5 in 1965 with Pete Conrad, setting a record for the largest manned space flight at the time, 190 hours, 55 minutes. Cooper was a key figure in the early U.S. space exploration, known for his piloting skills and contributions to mission planning. After NASA, he pursued business ventures and consulting, but faced financial personal struggles. Cooper died October 4th, 2004, at age 77. His legacy includes pushing the boundaries of human spaceflight and inspiring future astronauts, a true American hero. And he had something to say.
Hundreds of unidentifiable flying objects.
Yes, they were flying quite high. How high we couldn't tell because we couldn't get anywhere near their altitude. But they were either very large craft way up or smaller craft still well above what we could get to.
For a day and a half, all of this happened. But then no one wanted to talk about it.
Well, we sent a report forward on it, and the answer that finally came back months later was they were probably high-flying seed pods, which didn't sound very logical.
While supervising flight testing in Edwards Air Force Base, his military camera crew actually filmed an unidentified saucer-shaped object landing near the site.
As they were sitting there filming, a little saucer came from, I say little saucer, it was a saucer, came flying over their heads, put down 3 little landing gear and landed right out on the dry lake bed. And they picked up their cameras and started over toward it, filming as they went. And when they got in fairly close to it, it lifted up, put the gear back in the wheel wells, tipped up, and took off at a great rate of speed. And so they came into my office and told me what had happened, and I sent them over to develop the film. And then had to go through all the proper regulations of reporting this, and we wound up having to send the film forward to Washington in the base jet airplane, and I don't know whether anyone's ever seen it since.
Now, the vehicle that you just described, how similar was it to the very first sighting that you had back in 1951?
Quite similar. It was basically the same plan-form vehicle. They were double saucer, lenticular. But if you're going to be going in and out of atmospheres like Earth or other places might have, you certainly need a little more aerodynamic type of vehicle. And the saucer has the capability of going through the air at tremendous rates of speed and handling the bow and trailing wave without making shock waves. So it can be very silent while traveling at big rates of speed through the atmosphere. A friend of mine who's a captain on a major airline at night was flying along, noticed this. Suddenly a big glow came off his left wing, and he looked out and this big saucer was sitting right off their wing. And so he turned, slide toward, and it moved away, and turned back, and it moved back in position, and turned to his co-pilot and said, do you see what I see? And he said, oh, God, yeah, I do. and it trailed along with him for quite a period of time, then tipped up, climbed very steeply away. Was on Jim McDivitt's Gemini 7 mission, where they saw this glint of something metallic off in the distance, and he reported it, and nobody had it listed on the ground, so he tried getting a picture of it, but the sun, unfortunately, was glinting off of it so bright. All you got is just a glint. There was no detail on what it was, but never any further sighting at all on it. Well, the letter to the UN was in conjunction with a meeting that I had with Kurt Waldheim and the Security Council of the UN to try to encourage the UN to establish a committee to start comparing notes and data and information, and to really look into all of this from an unbiased, neutral point of view.
Here's a quote from your letter. I believe that these extraterrestrial vehicles and their crews are visiting this planet from other planets and are obviously a little more advanced than we are here on Earth. And are you saying that's exactly why governments have been trying to keep this information private, because of that obvious advancement?
Very possibly, right.
Security. And they're not going to let it go until it becomes, there's such overwhelming evidence, like we get a good view of this 3-Eye Atlas. I would love to have a fireside speech by President Trump. Let's see, Jay Gray, Boozer. This guy did not eat soy. Jay Gray, they may want the gold, but why would they want the money? Do they use dollar bills to smoke human belly fat? I assume they use hookahs. Boozer, imagine what the aliens must be thinking when they pass by and see extravagant Halloween decorations. Yeah. Now, a little back to my cataracts. This is the lens I'm getting. Let me play this for you.
The most important factor when evaluating a toric lens implant is visual quality, first of all, and then actually how it corrects the astigmatism. How stable is it? Are we going to be able to rely on the fact that it's not going to rotate? And if we have a lens that has excellent rotational stability, along with the happiness of the patient, in my mind, that lens is a clear winner. Over the last 15 years, we've seen the Alcon platform deliver when it comes to the happiness of the patients. And so this isn't really anything that we're expecting to be any different. And on top of that, now we have a material that also is trustworthy. So we have excellent rotational stability that we have seen proven in how the lens is performed up to now. And now we have an improved material.
They have little wings or something on their haptics on the lens. Let me go to my, I'm tracking the costs of all of this because I got to make sure, you make so many appointments and I want to make sure that I get the insurance claims. And there's the doctor. Okay, I am getting the left eye, let's see, I am getting the left eye option 2. It's the premium distance. There's 3 choices. They won't give me the trifocal. The nurse said the doctor crossed it out for me because my astigmatism. So I am getting the premium distance. Advanced lifestyle lenses, Alcon Clarion Toric. It was too great, my... crossed it out. Let's see. Yeah, he wouldn't give me the premium. So, but I paid, wrote the checks. Still waiting for it to clear the bank. I'm going to save the checks. Thank you. This is kind of like a glacial blue or something. Can't remember the glacial something. Boozer, nice color on the WRX. Most are blue, orange, or red. Oh, the bright blue? Yeah, I don't want one of those. And it looks good with the black wheels. It's a great little car. And it's paid for. But the market did so well today. You know what? I had to order a knife. I didn't order it. I put a bid in it. I didn't even do that. It's a it's new in the box. There's a guy, a dealer that he's got a small shop, so I sent him an email. I wonder if he answered me. No, I sent it through their website, but it is Friday. But I found really a nice Benchmade 940 with premium steel, and it's a little different. And I do have one, the translucent jade, the M4 super steel, but this is M390. And I made him an offer. I think it's what I'm willing to pay. I don't want to negotiate with him. This is what I'm willing to pay. I got to get something off of it. He has it advertised for $290, but I made him an offer at $250. Have him to consider it. So if he doesn't get back to me, that's great. So maybe he's thinking about it. Maybe he took it seriously. All right, now let's get to, what else did I have on? Let's go back to the comet. There was some news from News Nation, Avi Loeb. So let's get the thing back here. And let's hear what Avi Loeb has to say. News Nation.
Well, we are still waiting for NASA to release an image, the highest resolution image with 30 kilometers per pixel that was obtained on October 2nd by the HiRISE camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. We are seeing the anti-tail that was pointed towards the sun, opposite to what we see in the context of comets, and now changing direction and going away from the sun, the more conventional way. We don't know what the reason is. And as you pointed out, we see
changing direction. Now, is it making a maneuver?
Some unusual composition of nickel with very little iron that we only find in industrially produced nickel alloys. And the size of the object, it's at least 1,000 times more massive than the previous interstellar objects we've seen. And the question is, why is such a giant object delivered to our inner solar system when we saw only small ones before? And it comes along the plane of the planets around the sun, and it comes close to Mars, Jupiter, and we just have to monitor it. And gladly, yesterday, the International Asteroid Warning organization network decided to have a campaign starting on November 27th until January 27th, where it will coordinate using all the assets we have on Earth and in space to get as much data as possible about this mysterious object. And, that would be a great blessing, irrespective of whether it's natural or technological. But if it happens to do a maneuver when it comes close to the sun, the way spacecraft do, using gravitational assist from the sun, that would definitely affect the markets, the financial markets, and politics on Earth.
Well, the market did good today, and I think the word's out that it did change course a little bit. What about the Black Swan event?
It could be also a mothership that releases mini probes that maneuver. And so I tasked the research team of the Galileo project. We have 3 observatories monitoring the sky to check for any unusual activity in the coming months. We have also orbiters around Mars that could check for unusual activity there. So I think we should keep our eyes open and not assume anything, because it could be a black swan event where something that looks natural at first ends up being like a Trojan horse, and because the implications are so huge for humanity, we must consider it seriously.
There we go. Now, I'm not playing this to scare anyone, but you should become aware. I mean, it's in the news. And let's see, we've got a comment. Let's see, it is honing in on its target. Well, I don't think so. I mean, who knows? I mean, something that big. So I went to Grok X on X to asked if it had changed its course, because it's hard to find the material or anybody really to discuss it. So this is an aggregator, AI, but it just aggregates. So I put in 3I Atlas course change. Now this is what it said. Yes, recent observations indicate 3I Atlas has undergone a noticeable change in its behavior, specifically its tail direction and subtle trajectory deviations. Here's a breakdown. Tail direction reversal. So it went, what happened? Initially, the object exhibited a rare anti-tail, in other words, a dust feature pointing towards the sun, rather than a typical tail streaming away from it due to solar wind and radiation pressure. This was imaged by Hubble and Gemini telescopes in July-August 2025. The change. New images from the Nordic Optical Telescope, October 2025, show the anti-tail has flipped, now forming a dominant tail pointing away from the sun. The coma gas envelope has grown to 19,000 kilometers wide. Can you imagine that? With the tail extending 56,000 kilometers. The thing is huge. Scientific explanation. I think that's a little biased. Why don't they just go one explanation and then do like another? Anyway, they call it scientific explanation. This is likely due to increased solar heating near the perihelion, and I'm not sure what that is. That's maybe the closest it gets to the sun. I'm not sure. Boosting outgassing and shifting dust dynamics. Anti-tails are rare, but natural. Really? One was seen with Comet Hale-Bopp. I don't know if it's as significant as this one or as large, but and the flip aligns with expected geometry changes as it orbits closer to the sun. Speculative. Loeb, in other words, Avi Loeb, notes this could resemble a spacecraft switching from braking thrust, that's anti-tail, to acceleration, normal tail, especially if it's performing an O-berth, O-B-E-R-T-H maneuver, using the sun's gravity for efficient course speed adjustments while hidden behind the sun during solar conjunction, October 21st to November. Why did my screen change? I don't know why it did change. Wait a second. Well, you can't back it up. Jay Gray, you disagree with everything I say. Well, you're being speculative, honing in on its target. What's its target? Does it have a target? It's going to exit the solar system. What happened? Trajectory deviations. What happened? Pre-perihelion data shows non-gravitational acceleration. Now listen to that. Non-gravitational acceleration. Does it have an engine? Propulsion, some kind of propulsion? Because this thing is huge. It's like supposed to be 46 kilometers in diameter. How can that accelerate? How something that big, that massive, accelerate? Slight deviations from a pure hyperbolic path estimated at approximately 1 million kilometers sideways in some analysis. It's also dimmed unexpectedly instead of brightening as it nears the sun. So it's getting closer to the sun and it dimmed. That's not a normal comet, right? The change, post-conjunction predictions emerging late October, early November will confirm if deviations persist or amplify. Current models show minor nudges from outgassing, but some independent trackers report approximately 1.1 million kilometer offset growing hourly. Scientific explanation. Comets often wobble. Okay. Due to asymmetric jetting from sublimating ices, solar wind, or dust ejections. 3I Atlas, retrograde orbit, opposite to planets, and interstellar origin amplify these effects. NASA confirms it's still on a safe, outbound path past Jupiter in March 2026. My birthday's in March. I can wave goodbye to it. Speculative angle, deviations exceed natural models post-perihelion. It could indicate propulsion. Okay, which means it's a probe, or it's you call it the mothership, or it's some, what would you call it? It's some technical device. It could indicate propulsion. Avi Loeb, the Loeb scale rates it 6 out of 10 for techno signature. Example, no water till, red CO2 coma, possible 46-kilometer core. Rumor of some kind of light pulses, October 13th, 2025. Add to the intrigue, though unverified. Yes, science is dragging its feet. They don't. The thing I like about Avi Loeb, he's got at least an open mind. You know, it seems like NASA or all these other guys or science centers, there's always a science explanation. In other words, it cannot be from extraterrestrial intelligence. Okay, I don't know how you back it up, Jay Gregg. It isn't huge, it's a pebble, but a very unique pebble. I hereby will remain silent. Okay, well, I appreciate your dialogue, but I mean, okay, where are we at? Oh, it got cloudy all of a sudden. It was so bright, now it's like cloudy. Oh, George Knapp. Let's get to Mr. Knapp.
All going to be circumstance for you is the moment that you approach him, the mood that he's in, what else is going on in his life at the time. You might hit the jackpot and get him at exactly the right time. And
Let me set this up first. He's talking, I believe, because he mentions the name Bob, Robert Bigelow, which is Bigelow Aerospace.
All going to be circumstance for you is the moment that you approach him, the mood that he's in, what else is going on in his life at the time. You might hit the jackpot and get him at exactly the right time, and the universe is aligned and he's willing to talk about it. But you'd have to be awfully lucky because in general, Bob doesn't like to talk about it. I think he's very happy in his life. He's happy to have left the UFO stuff behind. He misses his friends. He misses John Lear. He misses Gene Huff, maybe even me to some extent, but he doesn't miss the UFO topic, and he doesn't miss talking about it, because ultimately it's disturbing. These are disturbing issues. They go to the heart of who we are as people, as human beings, the nature of reality itself. Is this a computer simulation? Are we all the product of an alien video game or some multi-dimensional movie, drive-in movie theater production or something? Big questions, disturbing answers, and Bob has never been comfortable in talking about it, never.
Okay. Now, I did make a transcript of that because I want to look closely at it. And I want you to help me with this. So let's bring that document up. I want to share screen, share screen. Here we go. Let me blow it up a little bit. Okay. And let's go to it. All right, now help me with this. Got a comment. I never got into that. Boozer, Lex, do you recall the crop circles? Allegedly, it was a big global hoax by a bunch of goofballs, according to the government. Who knows? But who cares? But when police officers and pilots, and they're seeing these alien craft that do amazing things, totally different, you know? And well, why would an alien come down here and make a crop circle? Why would it do that? Right? But I don't bother. I don't look into it. All right, Mr. Knapp, here we go. Now this is what intrigued me about it, because I thought, where is this guy coming from? But ultimately, now he's talking about, you know, aliens, and we got photos of aliens here. You know the Greys and the Nordics or whatever they are. Because ultimately it's disturbing. Is it really that disturbing? Do you really think out of those trillions of galaxies and, you know, countless galaxies, and that there is another life out there? Because we don't know how we got started. We really don't. We don't know how it originated. I mean, I have a spiritual basis on it, but for the most part. There's no scientific explanation as why the universe was created or how, really, that it was, came from a single event, the Big Bang, and life itself, how that got started. But here it is, George Knapp, because ultimately, it's disturbing. These are disturbing issues. They go to the heart of who we are as people. Where is he coming from? Like they have something to do with, were there experiment down here? They created us? Is that what he thinks happened? As human beings, the nature of reality itself. We don't know the nature of reality itself. We never did. We're still trying to get to it. String theory, what's behind it? What's keeping it all afloat? We don't know this stuff. Is this a computer simulation? Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. It's some kind of AI, but it's infinite intelligence. You want to call it God, it's so good, we don't know it, but is this a computer simulation? Not from the aliens. I think a lot of these people are trying to, they're not God-centric, if you want to, for lack of a better word, so they look to science. So now they're looking to the aliens. Oh, they're going to show us everything. They're going to explain everything to us. No, they're not. They probably don't give a shit about us. Are we all the product of an alien video game? No. Or some multidimensional movie. Drive-in movie, theater production, or something. Big questions. Those are your questions. Those are not my questions. Disturbing answers. And Bob has never been comfortable talking about it, whatever. I don't know how else you interpret that. Let's get rid of that, remove. Go back to the garage where it's nice and safe. I don't even know. I have no idea. If they're so advanced, why would they crash into Roswell, New Mexico? They had some craft problems. Remember that Buga, Columbia? That sphere came down? The reason it was by those power lines. That power line screwed it up. And I can't believe people are just handling that stuff, that sphere. It landed, and they know where it landed because nothing will grow there. It's like, and it got heavier. It was heavy, or it lost weight, or it gained weight, or something. It was levitated. And so it's some kind of, there's probably some type of engine inside of it too. No idea. Or if they even did that, who knows? All right. Absolutely. Boozer, no, they don't, let's see, how do I do? If you pick up their debris, and this is where General Corso, who says after Roswell, I should play some of that stuff. Do you think the aliens have given us a hand with technology? Not directly, unless Eisenhower did meet with one of them. You look at that B-1 bomber, the new one, or whatever, the stealth looking, and look at where do you think I Googled where did carbon fiber come from, and it was accidentally discovered in 1955. Really? Serendipity? No, I think they probably were. They found some material to see how they could. That's probably one they could make. They reversed engineered. So what did I do with that? Let's see. I think, okay, yeah, Philip Corso, General Philip Corso. We should play some of this stuff. That was pretty good. He did a great interview on Art Bell. Maybe I should play that right now. But I did make some notes on that. So let me go to my notes. Let's see, UAP, NHI Biologics. Okay, here's some examples. So they would take from the debris field, they would take some things into private industry. Now, And there was no bidding process, so they would hand it over to them and say, "Hey, what do you make of this? Can you replicate this? What do you think this is?" So possibly that's where integrated circuit boards came from, fiber optics, night vision optics, lasers. Who knows? I think so. I haven't played this for a while. Maybe I should play it now. General Corso. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Colonel, welcome to the program.
Yes, thank you.
Colonel, you saw an extraterrestrial at Fort Riley, Kansas.
Yes. I want to explain to you how that happened. I came back from Italy, and I was in the Pentagon, and I asked for assignment, and they gave me an assignment in Fort Riley. It was garrison duty, and I'd never had garrison duty, and I enjoyed it very much later. But one particular night, I was the post-duty officer. Now, a lot of people seem confused on what that means, not being in the military. That particular night, I was in charge of almost all security, the guards, so forth, and all the buildings in the post, all night long till morning.
Sure.
I wore a sidearm, and I wore a band on my arm identifying me as a post-duty officer.
What rank were you then?
I was a lieutenant colonel.
Lieutenant colonel.
And one of my primary duties was to inspect the guard to make sure they were all on duty, in the right places, and doing their job, not sleeping at 3 o'clock in the morning for them. In fact, one of my duties on the lighter note, I had an instruction book where I made the notes and my report that I gave to the general next morning. And one of the lighter notes was, somebody had written in there, and make sure at 1 o'clock in the morning you close the officer club up and throw all the drunks out. That was written in by hand by somebody. So, as post-duty officer, I knew, I was told, there was a sensitive area in one of the veterinarian areas. Now, we had horses in, too. And so, about 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning it was, I went down, I was doing my rounds of the guards, and I stopped in this particular guard, and the master sergeant that I knew very well, I used to bowl with him at the field house, was the sergeant of the guard. And I told him, Sergeant, how you doing here? Is everything quiet? And he said, yes, sir. He said, I told him it was a pretty sensitive area tonight, so I want you to stay alert and your boys alert. He said, you want to see something, Colonel? I said, yes. So I walked in the back room with him, and I lifted the end of the tarp up. And here was this body floating in some sort of liquid. And it was a strange thing. It was a small body. I thought it was a child first, but then I looked at the head and so forth, and the arms, and I saw it wasn't a child. It was a great color. And then I put the tarp back down. Now, all this lasted, I'd say, 15 seconds or so.
15 seconds.
Yeah.
Long enough to recall details? Or?
I was an intelligence officer, and I was known to have a good retention on what I saw. So the face was, the head was large, but not as large as most drawings show. It was enlarged as a proportion of the small body.
Uh-huh.
No ears, no nose, no mouth, slits only. And the eyes were a little large, slanted, large compared to our eyes, but not great large eyes. The arms were sort of spindly and the legs were sort of spindly.
How big would you say this creature was?
Oh, it wasn't even 5 feet tall. In fact, I thought it was a small child when I first saw it.
Okay.
And it sort of turned my stomach a little bit, but this was a normal reaction even in combat areas when I saw people mowed down by artillery fire. I get the same feeling. And usually you recover fast because you almost have to when you're in command of troops.
Sure.
And I recovered fast, and I figured, well, I don't know what it is. I can't evaluate it. So like a good intelligence officer, and I was trained by the British, by the way, I put it in the back of my head, and I figured someday, someplace, maybe I'll get cooperation and be able to evaluate this for what it is. And that, from then on, I forgot about it until something came out to bring it back.
Let me ask you one other question, Colonel. Surely you and the sergeant must have had a conversation.
I told the sergeant this. I told him, Sergeant, get out of here, get out of this room. You could get in a lot of trouble. I'm the post-duty officer. I have all the clearance. Of course, it's my duty to look around like this. But you're not supposed to be in here, so get out in a hurry, Sarge, in front of me.
Okay.
And that was and then I asked him this question now, a very important question. As we were walking out, I told him, Sergeant, where did it come from? He said, well, I talked to the drivers. There was 2 men in each car, 2 soldiers in each truck. There were 5 trucks total. And he said it came from some airfield in Fort Riley, they said, and they're heading for Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And that was all it was said. It didn't describe Roswell or the base here. It said an Air Force, an Army Air Force base in New Mexico. And that was all he told me.
Okay.
1947.
47, all right.
It was, I'd say, about 2 weeks after it happened here. And not long after, I was assigned that about a month before in Fort Riley.
And this was in a veterinary office.
Well, we had veterinaries, and that was a logical place to keep some of this.
Sure. And so you just, after that experience, you just sort of filed it away for future reference.
Yes, sir. Because the intelligence process says collect, evaluate, corroborate, and then come forward with your report.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. I didn't know what it was, so I put it in the back of my head.
Boozer, the government is doing a better job at keeping personnel quiet. More whistleblowers were coming out in the 20th century. Yeah, and that was a while ago. And now we have aircraft and tracking systems, and more people are reporting it. It's. I don't think they can put this back, the genie back in the bottle. I mean, they're going to come clean someday. They're going to say something. They're going to have to comment, you know. You got nearly every observatory looking at this 3-eye atlas. Now, somebody's going to get a clearer picture. And then the public eventually, we're going to demand, we have to see those MRO, those Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter photos. But let's continue. And this guy's the real deal, Corso. He's the real deal. Let's keep listening. I think I haven't heard this for a while.
Hi, Art. How are you?
Mr. Burns, welcome.
Yes.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
May I go back a little bit before we get going here and ask you how in the world Colonel Corso can now come forward, or at any time can come forward, and be safe?
First of all, Colonel Corso's relationships with the United States government intelligence community within the military are rock solid. He was an advisor to members of the Senate, an advisor to presidents, and an advisor to generals at the highest level of the military, and not just the Army, but obviously generals from other services as well shared in the intelligence that Colonel Corso helped develop during the course of his career. So the very people that would be the ones who would look with great disfavor upon what Colonel Corso is doing were the ones who, during his tenure in office, and not just at the Pentagon, but at the Eisenhower White House, when he was a military commander in the most sensitive area of Europe, the Southern German Command, where he had authority to use field nuclear weapons, those very officers were those very intelligence officers were the ones that he'd been putting in their places for 20 years. So no, they're not going to come forward now. This is a war that he's already showed who owns the battlefield on that one.
Can you give me his reasoning for coming forward? He must have struggled greatly with this before going public.
Yes and no. And when the time comes, I think the colonel himself is probably a more appropriate person to describe this, but I will tell you what he told me, and then a little later on we can hear it from the colonel in his own words. Basically, the colonel belonged to a handful of officers led by, from the memoirs that I read of the man himself, written by the man himself, and the colonel's own memoirs, Lieutenant General Arthur Trudeau, who was probably one of the last of the great combat officers who had a grounding in military technology. I think it's a breed we don't have anymore. I don't want to speak for the present leadership, but I'm just saying that when you look at things like the War of the Generals and all the generals bumping heads in the Persian Gulf, and then you see a man like Arthur Trudeau, who during the Korean War, his men were trapped on Pork Chop Hill, and the orders came to abandon the men. Arthur Trudeau said, hell no, took off his general's helmet, put on a sergeant's helmet, and said, who's coming up with me, ran ran up the hill, took the man, brought him back down, put on his general's helmet, and that was it. Now, that's a hero. Okay?
You betcha. You betcha.
This is a man who fought the CIA, who was blasted by people like Dulles, and who came out on top every single time, and who led Army intelligence, and who completely reorganized the Army R&D inside the Pentagon, completely reorganized it to make what this book is about possible. So this man and the colonel were friends well after both men retired. General Trudeau went on to be a consultant to industry, had his own industrial consulting firm, worked, I think, for Gulf Oil in Pennsylvania. He was a good friend of the colonel's for many, many years afterwards. The two men had an oath. The oath was very simple. We will maintain our silence while we're both alive. When the general was sick, called the colonel aside, the two men, two old soldiers, you have to imagine the scene, and said, I'm going to release you from your oath of silence. You can tell this story. And that was what it is. There was no national security oath, no great overriding concern of national security. This is what two men did inside the Army. So this wasn't as though this was a great military strategy or a great defense strategy. This operated within the Army with a handful of officers. Nobody else knew about it. That was the point. So there was no national security to breach.
And now I'm really into it. I gotta finish this. I gotta listen to all of them now. This is a rather long one, but I think it's fascinating.
All right. Colonel Corso.
Yeah, I'm on now.
Welcome back. All right. They have set the stage well, and so there you are, working for General Trudeau. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did you find, and how did... your own words, sir.
Yeah. Well, just let me go back a little bit. When General Trudeau said he was going to send for me, he told me this. He came over to visit in Germany. And when I came back, he sent for me. The chief of personnel called me. And I went into General Trudeau, and I saluted. He said, "You on board, Phil?" And yes. He said, "Watch things for me, Phil. The rest don't understand." And it was what Bill Burns has just described to you, what he meant, really. So he made me his special assistant. Then about, I'd say a week or 10 days passed, and I was appointed to the Foreign Technology Division. When I moved in the Foreign Technology Division, just shortly after that, General Trudeau called me and said, "I'm delivering a file cabinet to you." He said, "You go through it, and you start working up a plan of action and recommendations to me."
Without telling you what was in it?
No, he didn't tell me what was in it.
Oh, boy.
And later on, he used to joke a lot when he'd come in my office and he'd say, "Where's Corso's junk file or his nut file?" Because the items actually were on my desk and they looked like I picked them out of a wastebasket or something. And he used to kid about that, but then he'd also get serious and say, "Phil, they could change our lives, or change the world." In one particular case, I didn't talk to the general. I had the integrated circuit chips, are about like a quarter. And I mentioned to him, I told him, "General, what's going to happen in the future if this chip," which was one of our most important things we had, I'd say number one just about, ever integrates with the human brain. And he looked, he said, "Yes, Phil, that's a great danger, but let's hope that people come after us will understand." He said, "But I doubt if it'll happen in our lifetime." Well, he died. I'm still here, and and they're working on that now. Now, in addition to that, when I started to go through the file, I found the first thing I had was a piece of metal about the size of a postcard and paper thin, but the atoms were lined in it. And this came from Livermore Lab, which was one of the laboratories we financed up at MIT. And he called me in and he said, "I'm making you head of a team. You will get in Army engineers and even the German scientists." And I did assign two to my team. And they worked with me. So the job was to go around industry, the first job, and see who was working on such items. So we did. We started to go to industry.
In other words, IBM, the big ones who were
yes,
working on...
We went to... these came in other factors. This particular one I'm talking about is alignment of atoms. So one day when we went to one of these industries, they had a long thing, tunnel-like thing, and at the end of the day, right after supper, I motioned to one of the German engineers, German scientists. I told him, Hans, take a walk with me. So I went to walk, and I told him, well, what do you think? He said, Colonel, if I believe everything I've heard today, I have to unlearn everything I've ever learned. So I told him, Hans, you might have to. He just stopped. He said, I'll remember what you said. So from then on, and General Trudeau, when he assigned me as head of that team, made the statement, this could be bigger than Los Alamos, because it can make spaceships light as a feather, can be penetrated by radiation, cosmic action. No gunshots can penetrate it.
You're referring to the metal.
The piece of metal, yet I'm still there. So we worked on it, but I have to end with a note on that piece of metal. We didn't succeed as much as we tried, and we were, well, and he gave me instructions, if you think they're beginning the process, fund it.
Well, in other words, let me be straight, Colonel. You took this to a private corporation,
yes,
and you in essence said, can you duplicate this, or can you make this, or can you back engineer it? And they tried and failed.
Well, let's say we all failed. We tried it. We financed it even. We never did. Anybody we assigned it to or we thought was getting close to it, really never did, let's say, happen.
All right, this piece of metal came from where? The crash at Roswell, or did you not know?
No, I knew. The file I had papers with it describing it.
And where did it come from?
It came from Roswell.
Roswell.
Now, then we moved to the integrated circuit, the size of a chip. Then General Trudeau gave me instructions. Find out who in the industry is working on similar, like the transistors already started.
Right.
He said, any scientists are working on it, write me a plan of action on how we're going to do all this. So I finally came up with my plan and gave it to him. He okayed it, that we would find scientists and people who are working in that area, particular area, and we would infuse in there normal research and development proposals, not the item itself, but proposals describing it. These are supposed to be normal R&D think tank type operations.
In other words, you would come up with a proposal that would suggest, for example, what about the concept of developing an integrated circuit, an IC circuit?
Yes.
Miniaturized.
Yes, along that line we came up. And
how did you get that, Colonel, to the industry leaders?
General Trudeau started the program, what we called applied engineering, and even Dr. Teller was in on that, and he's still alive, you know.
Right.
And this applied engineering, here's exactly what we did. We found out people working in that area. We infused the technology in this through R&D projects, and we funded it. They didn't use our money. We funded the project. And then every time we thought they were slowing down, we would infuse maybe a little more in, and then finally the chip went over to them.
All of this black budget money?
No, this was not black budget. This was R&D money.
R&D money.
Given to us. This was money appropriated by Congress.
All right.
We had now, in addition to that, let me tell you this, since you asked about budget. There's such a thing as R&D T&E operation. That was research, development, and RDT and ES. And these type of programs were that the first item made, we would go and check where it was done. Or it was T stood for test and evaluation. I better add that on.
Yes, sir.
The first budget that came in was the prototype. And I tell them, when the first prototype was off the line, I'll be there to check it.
You bet.
Many times it wasn't. And I even threatened sometimes, I had authority to cancel contracts. Now, since the first item, an RDT&E, was still in the R&D, and we financed that with our budget. Again, not a black budget, an open budget.
Understood.
Appropriated by Congress.
Yes.
Because remember, the projects that went out were normal research and development contracts.
Makes sense, yes.
They weren't sub-rosa or anything like that.
Right.
Or any say, we can't tell you enough. We put them out in that sense. And this program started to operate. And it started pretty good. Then one day, I pulled out of the file a bunch of wires. Well, I thought they were wires, and they were emitting colors. And there was some sort of, there must have been some sort of circuit in there or some sort of power source. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know if it was a wire, it was something plastic. But finally we got, there was people working on similar stuff. In fact, lately I talked to some scientists who were in that area. And this was infused in, and I think one of the ones that was fused in was Bell Laboratory. From that, fiber optics developed.
Fiber optics?
Yes. Now, also, let me get back to a little story on the chip, on the integrated circuit.
All right, may I stop you and ask you, the material in those filing cabinets, was that all from Roswell?
It was from Roswell, but and sometimes I got the idea that some of it maybe came from the St. Augustine crash out here.
All right. Anyway, you were going back to the chip.
Yeah, I'm going back to the chip now. That was one of our really number one importance. I found in my file, a file I had in there that was labeled Project Rainbow.
Rainbow.
Project Rainbow was John von Neumann's project. And I read it, and this was amazing. He was starting to work on artificial intelligence, artificial life.
Oh, my.
And I put it aside, and a lot of times I look back, was I remiss? I had the organization, the money, the brain work, the brain people to do it, and I didn't. I put it away because I really didn't understand it, to tell you the truth. I didn't understand everything that I had. In fact, many times I thought we weren't that brilliant.
How did you even decide where to take any item that you might have plucked?
Here's what happened. General Trudeau made it a point to contact most of the industries in the Fortune 500.
Right.
He personally went to visit 25 of the boards. In fact, to give you a little story, I went with him to Sperry Rand. We met the board. In fact, who came out and met us? MacArthur herself. He was chairman of the board up for and that was, I thought myself and General Trudeau, that was a great honor when MacArthur came out to see us, although I served under him in Korea. In fact, I was standing there with them, both of them, and they were asking me questions, and a little story. I wondered, well, how does this happen to me? The greatest soldier we ever had, and the most brilliant soldier, and they're asking me questions. It doesn't make sense.
You never actually transferred materials. You transferred ideas.
At certain stages we did.
Oh, you did?
At certain stages, but it had to progress. For example, General Trudeau told me one day, getting back to the integrated circuit, he said, Phil, the transistor in the way it is today and the integrated circuit took us 5 years to develop. It should have taken 250 years. Now, those were his exact words to me. Now, von Neumann's project, maybe one of the reasons I did look confused and we couldn't do it, was really the supercomputer had not come in existence then. It did come in existence till late years now. Right. So we weren't, and maybe I had some intuition not to fund this and start because we really were not in permission to exploit this and develop it. Supercomputers had not been developed at that stage, but they were working on it. Then I'll tell you another interesting little story. I had what we called a super tenacity fiber. It looked like string, but you couldn't burn it, you couldn't cut it with a razor blade, and we found out that the atom structure was aligned in them.
That the what? The atom structure?
Yes, atomically aligned, just like the piece of metal.
Just like the metal.
Now, that is a strange little story here, an interesting little story. So what did we find? The nearest thing on this Earth to that was a spider web. The spider spins an atomically aligned web.
All right, Colonel,
that way.
Colonel, hold it right there for a moment.
I think this is fascinating. I'm glad I saved this. We got comments. Boozer, a lot of alien shows and documentaries are too fantastical. I like these direct from the source, no nonsense interviews. Yeah, this guy is great. He's the real deal. I remember Art Bell in Las Vegas, and then there was George Knapp, of course, and then the guy who worked at Area 51. What was his name? Some of us actually listened to this in 1997. You are a babe in the woods, Doc. Okay, well, it's good to re-listen to it. I think a lot of people haven't, and and now it's congressional hearings and everything else on this phenomenon. It's good to get into it. Now this clip is shorter.
Oh, I'm back on.
Yeah, you may have listened to it, but I've never seen you bring it up anywhere, Jay Gray.
Yes, Colonel. Welcome back.
No, finish the spiderweb story. These spiderwebs, you could stretch them for miles. They had like a hook type arrangement when they were spun. It was a line, and it would stretch. You just stretch it for miles, not break it, then it'll snap back in place. So what we did, because of its strength and tenacity and the way we made flight jackets out of it.
Flight jackets?
And they worked very well. But the problem was we couldn't get enough spiderweb. So we gave a contract out, the first one I remember, and this, by the way, appeared in the Discovery magazine story not too long ago, which I cut out. We financed the University of Wyoming. We wanted them to try to clone the spider. But
I'm sorry, I missed that, Colonel. You wanted them to what?
Clone the spider.
Oh, clone the spider.
So we could get enough material to make flight jackets.
Understood.
But we never succeeded, and they never succeeded until today. I don't think it's been done. So we had to go to other fibers like Kevlar and everything, the way the flight jackets are made today.
But it started with the stuff in your file.
Yes.
Yeah, but it all began with that file drawer material.
Yes, that came out of my file drawer.
May I ask a question, Colonel, that jumps way ahead?
Sure.
What happened to all the material that was in that file drawer? Where is that material now?
Well, really, I don't know. Some people have asked me at times, did you keep any? You could have kept some and made millions. No, wait a minute. I was an Army officer. That belonged to me.
I understand.
It was the Army's.
So in other words...
I'm the one in intelligence and sovereign security, the one that should keep the people from stealing things from the Army.
I understand. So when you left, you wouldn't have any idea of its chain of custody?
No, I just turned it back over. Just like, I can tell you this, I didn't know the chain of custody even before I got it. So I never... And then, actually, when I retired, I wasn't even in the Army anymore, and I have no idea today. I asked some officers not too long ago that I know to try to keep it quiet, and I told them where I thought the file could be. But it's up to somebody else to track it down, because I can't do it. I'm not in the Army anymore. Well, my first handling was, I had another device that was similar to this, and of course, like a human doesn't know any better, I figured the batteries are dead. I couldn't turn it on, and there was no batteries in it. But that was the first reaction of a typical reaction of a human that doesn't know anything.
Would have been mine.
And later on, well, it was mine too, and I was in charge. But later on, like the other little instrument I had, which I think measured the intensity of brainwaves on different organs of the body. That particular thing, I thought the battery was dead in that also. Then I took it to a lab down at Belvoir, and lo and behold, when some radiation area, I went in, that thing came on.
When you went into an area where there was radiation?
Well, there was actually, we had the low level radiation because that was our atomic lab, the one we kept that they didn't take away from us.
And so...
Okay, small break here. I'll be right back. Okay, let's continue.
When it got into that area, it turned on?
It turned on. Of course, it had graduated things, and I shipped that to Monmouth also, because they were our electronic labs.
Yes, sir.
And there, it was an R&D project, because they were our labs and they were military. See? And I never did get because I left after, well, not too long after, when General Trudeau retired, and 6 months later I did. But I shipped it to them, and that was those two interesting little items. And the laser, then the second most important thing after the circuit that I think we did was our development on lasers. A lot of people believe that the laser was started before. Well, there were experiments before, yes, way back. But the thing blossomed and took hold on lasers in 1960. And even General Beach, who took General Trudeau's place, made that remark in public.
When you turned that device over?
I turned them over to Monmouth, our electronic labs.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, not on Long Island.
Yes.
They were our electronic labs. See? And then also...
Did you then follow the progress of the back engineering?
Well, yes, I followed them for a time, but then... Now, also another thing, I better inject this right now. Much as it seems now when they read the book and all, that people think how important they're shaking, this was not my primary job. This was like a secondary job.
What was your primary job?
Well, my primary job was Special Assistant Chief of R&D, for example, budgets. And I was the first officer, I'm the first project officer on the anti-missile missile. Trudeau assigned that to me, the importance of it, because the brain from the extraterrestrial could be, it had four lobes that could integrate back and forth electromagnetically. And we did similar work out on our ICBMs. Our International Continental Missiles. So we did that, and we used these items on that. We went along that line. And then, I'll jump ahead a little bit, we had what we call, well, a laser developed into, we had to be very careful with that weapon we developed, which really got into Star Wars. Actually, the weapon, your weapon, could go 300,000 kilometers a second, and airplane travel in the speed of sound. There was no lead time. I think they calculated they would travel 1 millimeter before the ray hit it.
What weapon was this?
DILIGENCE weapon. Direct energy weapon.
Direct energy weapon.
We had to be careful. It was dangerous. One doctor, he wrote an article that I have a copy of, a little paragraph. He said, the most frightening thing in my life happened to me. My eyes popped out and started to bleed inside. He said, I've never had such a frightening experience, and it came from looking at the ray. So we had to be careful with these things, too, because we didn't know what it would do altogether. So this was what later developed in the DILIGENCE weapon, and also we found out a very serious thing during that period. In fact, the project officer took my place as a special projects officer of the anti-missile missile. He came to me one day and he said, Phil, he was a colonel too. He said, we got an awful thing. We better, and he said, the Soviets can change the trajectory, their ICBM missiles in midair. Oh my God, we better go to Trudeau, the general, right now. And that was almost a little frightening, because if we couldn't hit him, look what danger we were in.
Of course.
So that became a crash project. And the answer was really the DILIGENCE weapon.
Direct energy
weapon. Because it could get so fast, so quick on the target,
that it wouldn't matter how it moved.
You couldn't evade it. Like our radars, like the radars I had at Red Canyon here in White Sands on my Nike missiles, we had a pencil beam that could lock on.
Colonel, was this some sort of electromagnetic pulsing weapon?
It came from the laser family, let's put it that way. I have the pamphlets I have at the Army send me, non-classified, I have them with me. They're all dated 1961, 62, and 63. So and then also there was another thing which I tell you happened. This is an interesting little story. I have a pamphlet written by General Britton, head of Army Material Command, in 1963. On the front page, there's a photograph of a cart we built, three-wheeled cart.
Yes.
This three-wheeled cart, we took the integrated circuit in it, and instead of putting electricity in it, we put water in them. The cart ran on water. And when I told Senator Glenn this, he got so interested I had to give him the photograph and told him, Senator, it was right up here, Harry Diamond Lab in north part of Washington, Adelphia. Maybe you can call them and go up and see it if it's still there.
A process, was it utilizing hydrogen from water?
No, water.
Yes, but the hydrogen from the water.
Well, I don't know if it broke down to that. It was still liquid. It didn't turn to gas.
Didn't turn to gas.
And I gave it to Senator Glenn. In fact, that particular meeting I had with Senator Glenn, there was an interesting comment that comes out of that. I asked the senator, and I think he'll verify because I had the appointment for half an hour, and he'd spend an hour and a half with me, and he had people waiting. I mentioned flying saucers to him, and he sort of smiled. He said, you know, Colonel, I'm an agnostic. I told him, but Senator, you didn't say you don't believe, and he laughed. And so that was, and then for the first time, I sent to the Army Historical Branch Engineers, and I told them where it was and what it was, and if they'd look it up and send me a copy. This was Project Horizon, the military colony on the moon, which we did in 1959.
A military colony on the moon?
It's the appendix, 50 pages of it is the appendix in my book. In fact, the first moon lander, there's a photograph of it in there. We did that. We had some of the best brains in the country, I think, working on it, Von Braun scientists and all. And when defense found out that, and they took the civilian top, took everything away from us and organized NASA, they killed it on us. We were never able to do anything on it. I declassified for General Trudeau, and it lay there in the files for years.
But what you're suggesting, Colonel, is that we had spacecraft and the ability to colonize the moon, which you're saying we did, and at the same time we were developing a space program that, as compared to it, was like a Model A to a modern BMW.
Of the Gemini and the other satellite. And lately, a friend of mine, a scientist, who met with NASA's top people, and he threw Project Horizon, the 310 pages on the table, and they were flabbergasted. After all these years, it was dead in the files until I pulled. In fact, if you look in the appendix of the book, in the front page of Horizon, you'll see right on top where it's secret and it's crossed off. The secret is crossed off because I declassified that for the general. And this is the first appearance it makes in public.
Project Horizon. And that went on for how many years?
Well, they cleared on us in about 1961. The Department of Defense just said nothing doing, no appropriation, nothing, forget it.
Could it have continued, Colonel, without your knowledge?
It didn't continue. No, I had knowledge. No, you know, although I retired from the Army, I had friends there. We trusted each other. We talked many times. I lived in Arlington, Virginia. I was close by. I saw these boys. No, it did not continue.
Why would
Unfortunately.
Why would a project capable of putting a colony on the moon not continue?
Well, I think Bill Burns testified that there was he came out with this. There was a battle of, let's say, territory or whatever you want to call it, of appropriations. So there was a terrific battle going on inside the government, which people didn't know about. And this thing, let's say, got caught in the battle. They didn't like the Army. They didn't like us, the civilian heads, and out of the military, you know. They didn't like us very much, and they wanted to pull us down. And anything we did was try to take it away from us. And unfortunately, this project with the moon lander in there, a picture of the moon lander, it's in there. They just destroyed it on us. They made us quit, stop. We got orders of no more.
God.
And the project died. And there's all the photographs.
Colonel?
And back on then.
All right. Is the technology Linda just talked about what we now know as night vision?
Yes. It's imaging intensifiers. That's night vision. We call it a night vision lab.
My.
It belonged to us. It was financed by us and belonged to us. Now, to tell you a little story right at the end of when she just read you, General Trudeau called me one day and said, Phil, here's an envelope. It's a budget of the IAWN laboratory. Now, you go down with your inspection team, and I took German scientists and engineers, and see how they're doing, how they're progressing. If you're happy, give them the budget. So I went to Fort Belvoir, and the colonel received this, told me at the exit interview, he said, we were a little leery when we heard you were coming down. I told him, is my reputation that bad, or am I a hatchet man? And I told him, well, in this case, might be a little different. So you're doing a good job. And you know, notice my German friend over there, he never smiles, but he smiled, so he liked what he saw. So for a change, I think I'll play Santa Claus. I told him, take this envelope, it's yours. The decision was left to me to give it to you or not. You're doing a good job. He opened it up. There's a $60 million budget. And I told him this. I said, now, there's a little hitch to that. You don't get that free. The war's heating up in Vietnam. Give us a night viewing device in 3 to 6 months. They did. So that's the little story about the night viewing device, and Linda read you. And now also, to go back beyond this, the Germans had an infrared, which was very good. And we took that. We also did infuse that. And I had a great advantage. Not only did I have the German documents, but I had German scientists who could read it and explain it to me.
Colonel, may I stop you and ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
After the war, sir, it is my understanding that there was a general division of German scientists between the United States and Russia. Do you have knowledge that the Russians got any German scientists who were privy to the same technology that the Germans had even prior to the war?
Now, I discussed the same problem with some of my German scientists. They claim that the Russians did get some German scientists, but not of the caliber that we had. Remember, we had Obert.
Oh, yes.
Here.
Oh, yes.
Obert was a genius. He ranks with Goddard. We had von Braun. Actually, Obert was von Braun's boss. And we had the other Germans, including the two I had on my team. Brilliant men. Now, they claim that they knew about a lot of these things, but didn't know enough to put them in production. In fact, later in the war, they were working on things. They were forced to work on things like this. But I begin to believe, and from what they said in my interrogation and the year I spent with them, that the same thing happened over there that happened here. There were groups of combat officers, like we had an affinity between us.
Right.
There was no paper trail. We trusted each other just from head to head. And nothing ever got out because these men were not, you couldn't get these men to talk or say anything. And we didn't like the elite in our government because we didn't trust them. And I understand in Germany there was a similar thing. The scientists did not like the Nazis. And I understand that possibly there was the same thing in Russia. If you read the middle photograph in my book, it shows a picture of General Trudeau and myself standing by the flag. On my right, I think, is Edward O'Connor. He was one of Truman's poker playing buddies. And the expert at the White House on Soviet, at the NESC, with the same division I was in. On the other hand is Victor Fedai, Library of Congress. Librarian, he's one of the top men, and then he went to Foreign Relations Committee. He's a great friend of mine, fluent in Russian. So Victor was going to Russia, and I told him, Victor, I'm going to give you some questions to ask. Would you ask your KGB general these questions? So Victor came back. He said, he said, Phil, I asked him questions. He looked at me. He said, I know what you want, but Victor, do you want me killed?
Well, that would indicate then they had
a similar thing.
You betcha.
Yes.
All right, Colonel, I can't let this interview end without asking you, at the end of your first interview, the exclusive interview you did with Dateline, you made a comment about a time machine. And they seem to use that comment of yours as a way to almost try and discredit, you know, the commentators sort of rolled his eyes, to sort of discredit everything else you had said. So I've got to ask you about that. May I ask you about that?
Yes. Well,
what did you mean?
In the book, there's a part in there where I discussed this with Professor Obert. We discussed time travel. But it was a discussion in those days about the possibility of time travel. And even the British were working on this. I had some documents and things I looked at, but they weren't. And then if you go back to the Philadelphia experiment,
yes, sir.
There were some ramifications in there which something disappeared and moved in space. And even Einstein's theories talk about zero travel time in his theories. And that was very unfortunate. When I was at the White House, I didn't go up and see Einstein. I should have. And I missed out on talking to the greatest mind that ever lived. Awesome. And then I also discussed this with Wilbur Smith, the Canadian genius, who was treated very badly by his government, and he brought us also a piece of metal. So, as far as that, these factors that I just said enter into this. But the main item was that I did discuss this with Herman Obert, and Obert thought himself, now not me because I didn't know that much about it, his opinion was that it is possible.
That time travel is possible.
That was Herman Obert.
So the reference
was much more brilliant than I was.
So then the reference to time travel was, it's something I'll tell you about, and you would have said what you just now said, not that you saw or traveled in time or saw a time machine or anything like it.
Never traveled in time. I wish I could. I'd like to do that.
All right. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Lately I had an operation on my stomach. I had a U.S. hernia, and the doctor pulled it down, a good friend of mine. Now I can eat apple pie and ice cream at night, go to sleep like a baby. And I told him, Doc, what'd you do? Push me back 40 years younger? And I haven't been able to do that in 40 years. So maybe I did travel back to all that.
Well, medically.
I'd like very much to travel in time if I could.
Well, I'm glad to have cleared that up because they were using that to discredit you.
Yeah, they did. But they didn't ask him. They had so much good material they never used. I can't understand that. But that's their business. They're in the business and I'm not. So they were free to use what they did.
For you, when you got to see the interview, sir, after it was all done and when it aired, were you surprised at what did not air?
No, I was not. Because I had testified before the MIA committees. And I stood in front of Senator Curry and Senator McMahon and others, and I told them, now the interview that I did when I talked to President Eisenhower on the prisoner issue, we agreed to cover the intelligence aspect on the spies that they were feeding back, taking our boy's identity, and then getting the Russian to adopt that identity and send him back here to the States as a spy. We agreed to, but President Eisenhower never told me to cover the prisoners going to Russia. In fact, he gave me permission to put out the numbers, which I did in Associated Press and speeches I wrote for Lodge at the United Nations. Yet the newspapers took the sensational thing that Eisenhower hid the prisoner going to Russia from the families.
Of course.
That never happened. So I had a little experience in this type of reporting.
I understand. Colonel, earlier I asked your co-author, Ms. Burns, Bill Burns, what kind of agony and thought process you went through before you came forward with all of this incredible information.
It wasn't really agony. Let me explain why I decided to write the book.
Please.
First thing, he explained, I had an oath with the general. An honorable, honest, good man. I was an Army officer. I wasn't about to break my oath to him. And he released me from the oath, he said, when he died. 3 years ago, unfortunately, he died. I was released from my oath. Then I could talk if I wanted to. I'm criticized by my own son and family. Said, 35 years you didn't even tell us. Sure. Why should I tell you? I had an oath. Then one day my grandchildren asked me, said, Granddad, what'd you do during the war? I figured I'd better start putting this on paper and at least leave them a legacy. From that I was writing my experiences, it evolved with what we have now. And that's how it came about. And that's really the story, a very simple story.
But this
didn't go through any agony or anything. No one has ever told me not to talk.
I understand, but this is such incredible information that surely you must have at least considered the impact on society.
Yes. General Trudeau told me one day, Phil, you and I go from one development to the other, and we take it as a matter of course in our daily work, and we think nothing of it. Yet some of these things are earth-shaking. These were General Trudeau's words. We had to learn to live with that type of thinking. And it was the same as almost like thinking in combat. You have to live with it. I tell people, I can tell you what it was like, but I can't tell you how it felt. You have to be there yourself.
How much of the material, Colonel, that was in those file cabinets was developed into products we use today percentage-wise versus how much we couldn't, was in there that we simply couldn't do anything with?
Very little. I'd say that we've developed maybe less than 5%. We developed some various things now for the world.
So in other words, somewhere there's still a lot of material that somebody's working very hard on.
Exactly. I think there is, because, like Mr. Burns said, a flying saucer itself is the capacity. And the reason a lot of them have crashed have been trying to build, because they miss out that the extraterrestrial is really the guide system. He blends with the capacitor.
God, I've heard that from so many sources.
Yeah, and we came to that conclusion also. In fact, I think one of the greatest things we were remiss that we didn't do more work to study this clone or this creature or whatever he is. We should have done a lot more. We should have diagnosed him and studied it minutely.
So there were actually those eye covers in the cabinet as well, and that's what led to night vision goggles.
Yes, it was actually the third eyelid. It's like something like he has another eyelid which blocks the sand out.
Yes.
It was similar. So we have something similar in this world. Although this in here, remember, these creatures walked around in the dark. How could they see in the dark if they didn't have something like that? Our boys, and one of the requirements when I went to night vision lab is make a night vision device which can fit over the soldier's eye almost like goggles.
Yes.
Not something bulky and big which he can't wear. And he has to put it on. A soldier operates in combat. He can't be carrying everything looking through it out around. You see, and they did. They did it. I have a pamphlet that they wrote, and I give them credit. They did perform and made it. And very proud. It was our own laboratory that did it, too.
All right, Colonel. Got to hold it there for a moment. Stand by. We'll get back to you. Colonel Philip J. Corso.
In 1962, I testified. Well, first, they asked me to testify for my 4 years at the White House and how policy was made and run and the names. I turned them down. They came to my house even. There was some Senate Internal Security Subcommittee on the Senate Judiciary.
Yes, sir.
And the counsel called me. And I came up. I was still in uniform. I went up there, and he said, I want you to testify. I told him, no, I'm not going to testify. And you put it in the archives and it gathers dust. For what reason should I? And he leaned over. He's a big, gruff man. He's a sawwine. And he said, Colonel, I'll subpoena you. And I looked back. I said, go ahead, subpoena me. I get 100 subpoenas. You can't make me talk if I don't want to. So he started to laugh. And I thought, what's going on? And from then on, till the gentleman died, we were great friends. So he looked at me and he said, somebody like you always wants something. What do you want? So it's simple what I want. I'll testify if you can promise me that you'll put it in the hands of the Kennedy brothers, President and Attorney General. Come up tomorrow. I came up the next day. I went to meet Senator Eastland, Chairman of the Judiciary. Senator Eastland told me, he said, Colonel, I promise you I'll put it in their hands myself, personally. So, Senator, call your committee. I'm ready to testify. And Dirksen presided. Keating was there. McClellan. All these powerful senators were there to hear this. I testified for 2 days. Even in front of the House committee lately, I testified on the missing prisoners. The word came up. So they won't release it. It's still top secret because it names the names in CIA. And I told them I went to get it. I wanted my testimony. And they told me they couldn't give it to me because they had to protect the source. And then the audience, I said, wait a minute, I'm the source. I don't want to be protected. And the audience started to clap, and the newspapermen even. But this is what was going on. So, to get back to the real story, though, then, about 2 weeks later, I get a call. The Pentagon says, the Attorney General wants to see you. So I go across the bridge, went over, and I went to Attorney General Robert Kennedy's office. And he had my testimony, 2 volumes, right on his desk in front of him. So first thing I said, and I sat down, I told him, Mr. Attorney General, if you and your brother think you make policy, you're sadly mistaken. His answer was, I know that, Colonel. I read your book, your testimony partially, but you and I have to discuss this more thoroughly.
Colonel,
well, let me finish, just real quick. So during the course of discussions I had with him, because I went up more than once, UFOs came up. And I told some of the stories to Attorney General Robert Kennedy. Now, I don't know this. I can't verify it. It was his affair, not mine. I think he discussed this with his brother, the president. So that's the story that I have to say of my relationship with the two Kennedys, and especially Attorney General Robert Kennedy. And all I have to say, I wish he'd become president. Yes, sir.
Colonel, how old are you now?
82.
82. Colonel, how many other people are there that you're aware of?
I can't tell you the number.
That could tell this story.
Well, I can't tell you the number because I lost track of them, because there was an agreement, even it's a code in motion pictures in the media, I think you know this. We never reveal the source or reveal someone's name or something unless we get their permission.
So you may be one of the last.
I may be. No, a lieutenant general called me. He was a colonel with me. And he told me, Phil, I know all about when you were chairman or head of the committee to investigate the alignment of atoms. So he's still alive. As I say, I don't know. Maybe in the group, the loop, even this gentleman called it. You were in the loop. I wasn't. He was a colonel then also. He said, and I know how close you were to General Trudeau. He said, I heard some of the things that you people used to talk about. So how many of the loop that he called that are still alive, I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. It's been almost 40 years. I lost track. I've heard it. That some of them died. Sure, some of them were older than I was. And I'm 82 years old.
Colonel, we're about out of time. It has been an honor for me to speak with you, and I think you're a patriotic person.
And that wraps it up for the Doc's report. Thanks, 4 people hanging in there. Okay, can end the stream now. Thank you.